Real heavy!
We're live. What up, fuckers? Back again.
Yeah, it's February.
It's February. Well, it's
And
March, but we're in February.
Yeah. There was lots of releases in February for the heavy musics, and we're gonna talk about the ones that we listened to, and it's gonna be fun.
All the time, we listen to music.
Yeah,
and sometimes we listen to music with big noise and little noise, and this is all big noise music.
Yeah, this is big boys, big noise.
Big noise, big noise, big toys.
Yeah. So we'll kick this off just like last time. We kind of broke it down by umbrellas, and we're gonna start it off with the cores. It's the cores, of course. It's the cores. Of course, it's the cores.
Of course, we start with cores.
Or of course, it's cores. Oh my god. So without
fucking idiots.
without further ado.
Without further, of course.
Yeah, I. This is a side note. When I was a kid, like not like a young child, but like maybe 13, 14, I legitimately thought that the saying "without further ado" was actually "without further ado."
You thought it was without a dude?
Like without further ado. And I was like, why do they keep saying "without further ado"? I don't understand. Did they like leave a dude behind or something?
Like, don't leave your friends behind.
Yeah. So without further ado, let's get into the cores.
Oh my god, we're not going to speak English by the end of this podcast. It's going to be the most random ass shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
You go first.
Fine. To start off the cores, we have the new DARKO US release with DETHMASK 3.
This is the final form, DETHMASK.
Now, I will say this DARKO album is tenfold better than the last DARKO release. I could not stand the last DARKO release because it was too symphonic. There was like that symphonic deathcore thing. I know Oceano tried to go with that route too, and it just was not listenable. And the fact that they're releasing as much music as they are, like I'm pretty sure they already have stuff lined up for their fourth album already. They're ripping through it like crazy. But the fact that they listened to the people and said, okay, let's just give them hard ass shit. And that's what this album does. And for some reason you are living under a rock and you have never heard of DARKO before. It's a pet project between the lead singer of Chelsea Grin, ex-Lorna Shore, Tom Barber, and then guitarist, instrumentalist Josh Miller, used to be part of Amir, used to be part of Spite. Like a kind of that techno deathcore flair. It is super, super heavy. Like I wouldn't call it like mathcore techno. It's more deathcore. So it's just more so the sounds and the ambience around the deathcore is what makes that kind of unique. So like
for me, it's like if artificial intelligence like broke free and decided that they just wanted to make deathcore music, it's like that. It's twisted. It's really twisted. It's like it has a lot of anime themes and vibes throughout the music, but But yeah, like crazy syncopated, like chuggy guitar,
Machine gun
like
riffs.
machine gun riffs. Yeah, just absolutely fucking bonkers deathcore. And then Tom Barber is an absolute animal on the vocals. This is a controversial thing, but I don't care. He's my favorite Lorna Shore vocalist.
That's not controversial.
Like Will Ramos is an absolute beast, but Tom is just like, I don't know. His hardcore mid-range vocals are some of the best, and his like gutturals and his deep like, yeah, I don't know. It just sounds like an ogre. You know, it's like so brutal.
And watching
I
him
wish,
when they came here 2 years ago, he does the same shit live.
yeah, I wish that they'd put as much effort into writing new Chelsea Grin, and who knows, maybe they are, but like, I love those last two, like Suffer in Heaven, Suffer in Hell albums. I wish that they would, keep doing that, like write more music.
So
But
I
yeah,
mean,
this is sick.
DARKO is a nice alternative, but
Mhm.
fingers crossed.
Yeah,
More
yeah,
Chelsea Grin.
yeah. Next up is another gigantic band. And this one has gotten mixed reviews. People absolutely love it and people absolutely hate it. And I get both sides of that, but it's the new Architects album, The Sky, the Earth, and All in Between. So this album was released February 28th. These guys are legends from the UK. I remember listening to these guys around the same time I was listening to August Burns Red back in the day. Like when I first discovered Thrill Seeker, I also discovered Architects. And I remember back in the day, they had this like super iconic UK metalcore, hardcore sound. It was like really grimy. It felt like when you listen to it, it was always cloudy outside, like it is in fucking England. Very bleak, lots of like mathcore influence, like that early, Norma Jean style metalcore influence, but just fucking brutal. And over time, as they've gotten bigger, bigger labels, all that kind of stuff, like touring around the world, thousands and thousands of people at their shows. They've kind of turned into like a more mainstream, I would say. What can I say about this album? It's the Architects, like it's Architects, but it's a natural progression from where they've come, like on every previous album. And I feel like there is something really fun for everybody on this album. It's probably their most approachable, or one of their most approachable albums in that way, where it is very mainstream. I was listening to it. I listened to it twice actually. When it first came out, I listened to it and I was like, nah, this is too like mainstream, high octane core for me. But then I was like, you know what? I got to give them the benefit of the doubt, because these guys, I've watched interviews with them and stuff, and they're like super down to earth. And, I think they're just at a place now where they just want to play whatever the fuck they want to play. They're older dudes, it's no surprise. They're really successful big band, so they're kind of just having fun with it, I think. And listening to it through that lens, I'm like, okay, this is actually really good. Like, this is something I could listen to if this came on like Power 97. I would get it, and it would be good. Good mainstream metalcore music. the other thing that I can kind of appreciate, which is the same thing I appreciate about bands like Spirit Box, is that they come from these bands, like watching them since they first started playing music and listening to them and like watching their natural progression, all that kind of stuff. You still understand like where they've come from. You know, they're not, it's not like a new band that is entering into this, you know, mainstream metalcore scene that are trying to pretend just to be like everybody else in that scene. Their roots are, you know, deeply rooted in like that early sound, and so you kind of respect that in a way. But I was listening to the second time I listened to it, I was like, man, this is like they have their more approachable songs in there, but it's like I started referring to them as Linkin Parkitects.
how they're trying to go that more approachable route.
Yeah, it's almost like the modern metalcore now, like the mainstream stuff is kind of like the new metal from back in the day, in a sense.
I could see that.
Like
But
high
it
energy, high octane.
still ruffle some feathers.
Yeah, like there's some pretty heavy, like brutally heavy tracks on this, and you know their music videos are really fun to watch. So yeah, you can tell they're having like just a ton of fun with it. And so in that regard, I'll give it its roses, because I do think they're a killer band, and like seeing them live would be absolutely chaotic. Like being in a pit with thousands of people or hundreds of people or whatever at one of their shows, at a festival show, it would be bonkers. You know, it would be so fun. So
and see, then you can't give them shit then.
Yeah,
which I think is kind of hard, because you would be having the time of your life. You can't say that band is shit and you like fucking it up in the.
Yeah, no, I just it's hard for me because I saw Architects when they were touring on their, I think it was Hollow Crown, and they played a show at the Garrick to like 100 people. Whoa. You know, and it was so insane, and it was so heavy, and they were like such a insane loud band, and they belted it out and they played their heart out in front of, you know, that smaller crowd. And like they were in the scene, like they were definitely up and comers. And but to like see them now is like these guys were opening from a second story window, and to see them where they are now, they're just like this giant band, like Spirit Box, or like, you know, very like mainstream now. So for me, it's like I think it would be sick to see them play a small cap room, you know, but as big as they are now, because they're on a major label and stuff like that, you know, they might never do that again. And so, whereas like Norma Jean, as an example, we saw Norma Jean at Side Stage, which I don't know how many people fit in that venue, but
not a whole lot.
No, maybe like 200 cap or 300 cap or something like that. And like Norma Jean's a pretty fucking big band. You know, like they could probably open for Deftones or something like that. And they played the Side Stage, super intimate show. So it'd be sick to see like this band, given their history, do more shit like that. Like do like smaller tours, but they're on a huge label. So I doubt they would ever do that. So for me, it's kind of like, you know, I wish they weren't on a big label, but at the same time, they're fucking, you want to make money as a band, like you got to do it.
You can't argue with that.
Sell your soul.
I think that's probably where some of the controversy comes from, is because of their past. If they were to start off like that, you can't really give them shit, but because of the changes of who they are and everything and where they've been from, then it's like, why are you quote selling out?
Yeah, it's the same as Bring Me the Horizon. Like Bring Me the Horizon,
for sure.
Like I remember discovering Bring Me the Horizon the same time I discovered Architects, and it was like this super new iconic sound that a lot of other up and coming bands wanted to sound like. And then they just blew up. They got so big, and then they completely changed their sound. And I feel like Bring Me the Horizon more drastically changed their sound, but Architects has been like a progression of sound. It hasn't been like a hard turn, you know, like a techno forward kind of like alternative metal album. You know, it's been like, you know, like chaotic hardcore, mathcore, metalcore to like more progressive in their sound, and then like to where they are now, which is like a new metal band basically.
Which, I mean, like you said, it's kind of hard to argue that point when you want to make money and now that's your living, right? So alrighty, so we're gonna do like let's call it a 90-degree turn in terms of the sound. We're going to more deathcore, hardcore, except we're going different accent. We're going down under to Volatile Ways with their release Perfect Dark. Holy shit, is this an ass beater? There is like this new wave of hardcore influenced death metal, and I think these guys have to be at the forefront of it. You know, you got like bands like Gates to Hell. I think the tone of this band is similar to even God Complex, but like turn it up a few notches. It's pretty close. Like the songwriting though, for being like a quote hardcore death metal album, is very well done. It's not redundant, it's not repetitive, and it's not stale, which is really refreshing. So it's a good overall listen.
Shorter runtime, and so it's just like front to back, just pummeling. But like you said, like I think lyrically too, it's really visceral. Like just some of the imagery with the lyrics and the music and stuff is just fucking brutally heavy. Really like carefully crafted and riff wise, like really straightforward, but like done really well, and similar to the Acacia Strain in a sense of like the sound, the style of like beat down hardcore mixed with death metal. But yeah, it's definitely one that like that would be a pretty scary pit. There would be a lot of karate moves in spin kicks and fucking, but like I feel like OG, like old school death metal heads would really appreciate it too.
Because it's rooted in that for sure.
Yeah.
I don't know what they put in the water in Australia, but
I was gonna say fucking Aussies, man.
Pissed off. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Everything they do, like there's always been like this thing where it's like they're not just a deathcore band, they're an Australian deathcore band. Or they're not just a death metal band, they're Australian death metal. It's like, fuck. Like there's something to be said for that.
Even
they definitely have their own
too.
Intensity. Yeah. It's just this intensity of, I guess, being like, I don't know,
secluded from the rest of the world.
Across the ocean, the middle of nowhere.
Real Heavy's got to go international. We got to go infiltrate New Zealand and Australia.
Yeah. Hello, mate.
Oh,
knocking at you. Just want Just
No
want
one
an
gonna come on
interview.
your shows, please.
Not
Get
gonna
bit
hit
by
yet.
spiders and shit.
We got some of the most dangerous animals in the world. That's probably why they're fucking so pissed off, because they keep getting bit by shit.
Yeah, you get
Getting
scaring
kicked
them
around
away.
like kangaroos and shit. It's like,
I'd be pissed off too.
yeah, why is everything trying to kill me?
Australia,
Yeah.
tourism.
Yeah.
You will
Yeah.
die. Everything here is trying to kill you.
Yeah, everything here will and can kill you.
It's not, if it's not the animals, it's the
Australia.
insects, and it's not that, it's the heat, and if not, then
It's the
who knows?
it's the inmates. Okay. Next up on the list, keeping in the in kind of that deathcore, beatdown, hardcore vibe, we've got the new Traitors album called Phobias. These boys are from Florida. So on my notes, I put load up the 45 plates, boys and girls. Your new favorite gym anthem is here.
Hell yeah. It's
because this,
Florida deathcore, again, just like Australia.
Yeah,
It's got like that
exactly.
old swag.
Yeah, it's got its own style for sure. It's this is straight up down tempo deathcore, but like beat down hardcore mid vocals, kind of similar to Kublai Khan. It's my favorite kind of deathcore because it's virtually no vocal Olympics garbage. It's like just brutal and intense. I mean, there's some breakdowns in there where you're just like, oh my God. But it's like, again, like it's the songwriting is actually really good, and they carry through a lot of that nu metal and kind of like hip hop influence throughout the record. It reminds me of a Mirror in a sense. There's a lot of groove, like a ton of groove. It's got that nu metal bounce to it.
I would say Throne. Like I was
Yeah.
thinking like a little Throne, and then in some points in the album they got like some lo-fi techno background music with it too.
Shit.
Or they have like that little instrumental break, and then it's like, okay, break's over.
Yeah. It's like for this kind of music, there was a point in time where everybody wanted to sound like this, and it became really oversaturated and kind of stale. But these guys seem to keep things really engaging throughout the record. And it's just like it's such a fun album. I find, like, I was ripping actually this in the gym, and I'm like, ooh, this is an ass beater of an album. Like, it'd be fun to see these guys live. I think it would be super, super, super heavy.
It's a one-way ticket to the emergency room is what it is.
Yeah.
And you know, Florida, they're gonna be rolling up there in their squatted trucks with their concealed carry, not giving two shits.
Yeah.
And so it's gonna be that'd be
sick album.
Yep. Alrighty, so now we're going, I wouldn't say a little lighter, but maybe a little bit. Still in the cores, obviously, but legends in the game, Killswitch engaged with their new release, This Consequence.
From this
they've been again in the game for like since what is it, early 2000s?
Yeah, they're I think like 99 or something like that.
Yeah,
These guys have been they're definitely they've created this sound which is like, I mean, they basically built metalcore. Like
yeah,
what we know as metalcore, like I would say Killswitch has definitely been the groundbreaking band for that. Like blend of mellow death and turning it into what is now modern metalcore.
mm-hmm.
But these guys really haven't changed up their sound.
No,
Like they've gotten more refined, and like production quality is a lot better, and but they've stuck with
their
the same.
songwriting is just like still the same.
Yeah.
The one thing I found with this album is I think it's just like it's a good overall listen. They don't have the same standouts, I think, as what they did like in the earlier days. Even with their 2019 release Atonement, I think there was a couple
Mhm.
ones that stood out a little bit more. But it's just like it's like I wouldn't say it's like the amazing, but I wouldn't say it's terrible. It's just like they know what to do, they do it well, and
Yeah.
they stick to their formula. So you
Mhm.
got to like they haven't released an album in before this time in 6 years.
Yeah.
So they're getting older. They don't have the same juice as they did before, but they still
Mhm.
keep the same. They still keep the same sound, and the fact that like they're still obviously they're touring. We're seeing
Yeah.
them in like what 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be sick. And the fact
Yeah.
that they're doing this with two separate vocals, like they started obviously with Jesse, went over to
Mhm.
Howard. Howard still maintained that same influence as they did, went back to Jesse,
Yeah.
and still ripping the game. So I mean
Yeah.
that you can't dispute.
Yeah, they're a band that I feel like a lot of people are like, oh, okay, great, another Killswitch album, you know, and then they're expecting something to be totally reinvented, but you don't have to reinvent Killswitch. That would
Mm-mm.
be like trying to reinvent In Flames or something. It's like, why? Like, why reinvent it? Why change up the sound? They obviously there's a lot of people out there that love Killswitch, which gets me to my next part is they're probably the best gateway band in terms of how palatable they are across like different spectrums of metal music.
Mm-hmm.
Like I could play Killswitch in the car with my wife and like friends who are not really into this music, and they would enjoy it a lot,
They'll
you
love the
know?
singing parts.
Yeah, and they'll be like, "Holy fuck, this is so heavy! Oh, break down!" But like, it's a great band for that. Like they're palatable across genres, you know. And even for me, like I'm kind of staunch and like hypercritical sometimes about bands, and I sometimes I want to be a hater, but it's like, how can you hate? Like they're they're so good, and they're simple, but they don't need to be reinvented. And yeah, seeing them live is, I'm sure it's going to be a party. Like it's going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, it's going to be fucking ripper. And when they are done as a band, whenever that is, who knows? Maybe they'll still play when they're fucking 60. But like when they do hang it up, they will be heralded as like the gods of metalcore, you know,
For
um,
sure.
as creating that sound that so many other bands have built on. I was watching an interview. This is kind of sidebar, but I was watching an interview with Guy Coswick. He's the vocalist of the Red Chord. And way back in the day, when the Red Chord was just started as the Red Chord, they were another band before that, and they were playing like super local shows. Killswitch Engaged opened for them. You
What?
know, yeah, it was like he was like, yeah, we headlined this local show at like community center, and it was like All That Remains, Killswitch Engage, Remembering Never, and The Red Chord.
That's
And you're just like,
insane.
what?
That's local.
Yeah, but like, you know, they've obviously, like, these bands have all come from that time of like, you know, these guys all listen to like In Flames and fucking, you know, all these mellow death bands, and they're like, how could we modernize this sound so there's more hardcore influence and stuff like that, and kind of like cross it over a bit, and it led to this modern metalcore sound. If it wasn't for Killswitch, there would be no August Burns Red. If it wasn't for Killswitch, there would be no like the big bands we know and love today. So it's just cool. Gotta give them their flowers for sure.
We'll give them flowers on the 24th.
Yes, we'll bring them.
We'll go up to the
bouquet.
stage with a big bouquet.
Yeah.
Thank you, band.
So next up, we've got a local legend band. Seen them live many times. They're called Tunic, and they just put out their new album called A Harmony of Loss Has Been Sung. It was released on February 28th. So Winnipeg boys, they play a really dark and twisted form of like post-punk with a lot of noise rock. Their earlier stuff was like really mathcore infused, kind of like, you know, there's some D-beat hardcore punk shit in there. This album is a very dark album in the sense because of the theme of the album. Lyrically, it has to do with the sadness of the vocalist and his wife losing a child, and then coming to grips with the loss, and then dealing with society and their expectations after that. And I was reading a bio of this album, and it said that this album is not a record that should offer hope. It's a record that instead lays bare the raw, depressing emotion that it itself becomes a more real picture of what it's like to live through this situation.
And you can hear it. You can
yeah,
hear it in the vocals.
it's painful.
Clear as day.
It's very painful. It's mostly spoken word vocal style, which is not uncommon for Tunic, but you can tell there's a lot of pain that comes through. But yeah, musically, it's very like heavy distortion, bass driven guitar. And even seeing them live when they opened for Ken Mode, when they played like a few years ago at the Goodwill, it was so crunchy and heavy, and it was probably one of the loudest bands that I've seen live, like in a small venue. Just punishing, but really, really great release, and definitely very emotional record for sure.
It takes a lot out of you, but I think if you go into it with the expectation that you know it's going to take
Dark.
a lot out of you, then I think you have more appreciation for it.
Yeah.
And you almost need to have that background knowledge with it, because if you have a more positive outlook going into it, then there's conflicting themes, and it's not the same.
Yeah.
So you have to see it from their eyes. And
Yeah,
it's I wouldn't call it an everyday listen, but it's a very great listen for specific uses.
it's
So
a
it's very niche.
it's a piece of art for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So the beauty's
Yeah.
in the eye of the bees that hold her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
All right.
we got now your black metal album's favorite black metal album with a Russian black metal band Crossbringer with Healismus Aeturnus. Sure, hope I missed.
Healismus Aeturnus.
We will put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
You figure out how to say it. So this, holy shit, is this one? This will send you back in your seat, like super dissonant guitar chords, blistering guitars and drums. It's like a imagine being in a room full of bees, but except the bees don't sting you. There's just the bees of black metal, and they're just all around you, that swarming sound. And it's not even that long of an album. It's like 27 minutes. And I would say out of that 27 minutes, it's maybe 20 minutes of actual musicianship. There's a few kind of lighter pieces, and then even the last song there, it's just mostly instrumental. But I think you need that because the whole album itself is just a fucking carnage fest.
It's very dense, and I was actually struggling to figure out what kind of umbrella to put this in, because it's super hard to define genre wise. It has like a lot of the dissonant melodies and guitar work, very similar to like Ulcerate, or there's a band called Plebeian Grandstand, and they sound a lot like them, but there's also a lot of like blackened hardcore, like kind of that UK blackened hardcore, like Oathbreaker a band like Baptist, Hexus. It's like really crusty, kind of like dark, like, post-hardcore. And that black metal influence kind of rings throughout the album, but then the drumming is like crushingly heavy. Vocals are like, the vocal performance is just insanity.
It's female
and that's
vocals, is it not?
Yeah. And it's just such a, I don't know, in my opinion, it's such a beautiful album musically. And again, it's one of those ones where you're just like, Jesus, man, how did you write this? Like, I don't know how you sit down and just like write that kind of stuff. But it's lovely. It's definitely one of my standouts for sure from February so far.
Lovely in the best way possible.
Yeah.
As lovely as black metal could be.
Last up for the cause, we've got some straight up crossover hardcore thrash punk shit, band called Stress Test with their self-titled album Stress Test. this was released on February 28th. These guys are from Portland. They play super fast, heavy hardcore punk crossover thrash with very politically charged themes and, you know, politically motivated lyrics. It's got a short but fierce runtime. It's like a lethal ninja attack, kick to the chest. You know, it's like, I just picture listening to this album with its kind of like shorter runtime. I picture you're just like walking down the street, listening to it, and then all of a sudden out of nowhere, all these like hardcore kids come and just like swarm you and just start spin kicking and like beat the shit out of you. And then
It just summons the core kids.
yeah, what are those called where people just like they coordinate like a mass dance party in like a public area? I can't remember what that's called.
Oh shit.
But like they'll coordinate like an actual routine, but they do it as a surprise in like a really busy area, like a train station or something like that.
It's not LARPing, is it?
No. No. But LARPing is like pretending to be in battle, like with real armor and like fake swords in the park.
Do that. They do LARPing in public, so I thought that was a surprise.
So maybe it is. Maybe it is kind of like LARPing in a sense. Huh. I wonder what a hardcore kid would say if you ask them, "Are you guys LARPing?" They probably get stupid.
They would. The first response would be, "What the fuck is LARPing?"
Yeah. Wow, I never thought about it that way. Huh. I'll have to ask.
It's like
one of the next shows if we see somebody doing like spin kicks and shit, I'll be like, "Hey, do you guys do LARPing?"
we need to go like live on location, like the Instagram kids, and have our own little microphone, go up to the show and like ask everybody, "Do you know what LARPing is?"
Yeah.
And then watch us get spin kicked in the back of the head.
Yeah, exactly. You get crowd killed. But no, that's what I imagine. Like this album coming on, and then all of a sudden, all these like normal people coming out of the coffee shops into the street and just like straight up two-stepping and fucking spin kicking, but it
summons them.
Yeah, it summons them, and then they just go right back into like put their scarf on, put their hat back on, grab their coffee, and they just go right to work. You know, just you're just like, what the fuck happened? I just got my ass kicked by ninjas.
15-minute lunch break.
Yeah. But this, if you like bands like Mind Force, Power Trip, Dead Heat, you know, this is your shit. This is your jam.
Because there's some like 80s. I'd say like the verses are very 80s rock ish. And then obviously they have the modern punk style as well.
Yeah.
So it's a good fusion between everything.
Yeah. It's another kind of band that I could put on with the wife, and she's like, "Oh, this is sick." Actually, you know, it's like good workout music. Or, you know, the other day I was like, "Hey, like we're in the car, and so we try to share the aux cord, and she'll put on a song, and then she'll be like, you know, what do you think of this?" And I'm like, yeah, it's actually really good. Like, I like it. And then I'll be like, play Mind Force. And it's like, she'll put on like Excalibur or something. I'll be like, play Excalibur. I'll be like, Excalibur! And it's like this like 80s thrash hardcore riffs. And you're just like, who will have the balance of power? And pretty soon you're in traffic, just like shouting Mind Force lyrics, and it's fun. But
well, hey, that's why they're there, right?
Yeah.
But yeah,
awesome. It's a great album.
Good find, I'd say.
Yeah. That concludes our core journey.
Yes. Now we're dooming it up, sludging it up.
We're getting into the bog now.
The dirty bits here.
Yeah.
We're going to go all Deutschland here.
Yeah.
Or a band called Morast, I believe.
Yeah.
With their release, the Fentanyl. These guys have been around since 2015. This will be their third full length release. But it's black metal, but not so much the same like the low quality tremolo picking style blast beat. It's a bit of a slower pace. They still have a like that aura around it, which is very synonymous with the black metal. Super dynamic vocals, but even the instruments are still super powerful. I would say it's a good album for people who are looking to get into this sub genre. I think it's pretty palatable for not the super underground black metal style, which I think most sludge albums are. They're just that slower pace, easier for people to digest. But all in all, I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, it was like it's like a death doom album. So it's blackened, so there's a lot of black metal influence, but it has that droney kind of atmosphere that's like really dark. There's some dissonant guitar work. But it is, like you said, it's listenable, like it's palatable, and it's almost has like some kind of like goth rock parts in it, like almost like death and roll parts kind of thing. But there is like the atmosphere in it, or the ambience, or whatever you want to call it, has this like dark tension throughout the album, and it just keeps building, but it never comes to like a release point. And when I listened to it, I was like, "Ooh, this feels like really uncomfortable at times." It's almost like you're going through a withdrawal from a drug like fentanyl. And so I don't know if that is a theme or like a play on the name of the album, but I don't know what it's like to go through like a hard drug like that, withdrawal. But I certainly know what it's like to go through caffeine withdrawal, or sugar withdrawal, or a nicotine withdrawal when I used to smoke back in the day. And it's like definitely not fun. So this album is kind of makes you feel that way a little bit. It's very dark, but I really enjoyed it. Like very well written, and yeah, it's definitely like a piece of art. So good, solid release.
Most of those black metal albums they're structured that way, which that's how they should be appreciated, and that's why it's not really, I would say, not meant for all audiences.
Yeah,
but it's just like, you know what you're getting into when you sign up for it, essentially. So
yeah. All right, next it's time to grow that fucking handlebar mustache, boys and girls. Grow it thick. We're going Sludge City here. This band has been around for over 35 years, and their album Guides for the Misguided, this is the band called 16. And this album came out February 7th. These guys are from California. Think like bands like Crowbar, High on Fire,
A little bit of Acid Bath.
Acid Bath. It's like sludge, stoner rock, heavy metal, like classic riffs, like really, really great guitar work, really great songwriting. The dude's vocal performance is phenomenal. He's got a great like raspy kind of growly singy voice, but then also like a really great clean voice as well. But this is just like great motorcycle music. Like throw it on when you're working on the car or the bike in the garage, and just everyday great listen.
It reminds me a lot of like southern metal. It's got that like the bluesy riffs. A little bit of chunk in there. Like it reminded me of like imagine if Pantera was just sifted through molasses.
Yeah.
Like the verses of it. Yeah.
Pantera started a sludge band.
Pretty close. It's pretty close to that. And but also the production is really crisp too.
Yeah.
It's not very hollow like a lot of sludge bands. So it packs more of a punch, at least in what I experienced. So
sick.
Now we got one more in the genre here, in the subgenre, and that's another back to Deutschland, back to Germany with Mantar with post-apocalyptic depression. So this one, they kind of have that same buzzsaw sound. I wouldn't call it full HM2, but it's pretty close. And the songwriting is super catchy. Like you catch yourself headbanging a lot. And are these guys only a two-piece too?
Yeah, there's no bass player.
No, so which is ridiculous.
Just guitar.
How groovy it is.
Yeah.
But then you notice the drums and the guitar, they stand out so well. Like you realize how important they are because there's only the two instruments.
This fucking, if you like Motorhead, if you like the Melvins, this is fucking straight up rock and roll. And the best way I can describe it is this is like party music. This is like headbanging party music. Like if you're at the King's Head pub and you're seeing like the best rock and roll band ever, like it's just so fun to listen to. So yeah. It has a lot of that like crust punk element to it. Like like the hey, what did you say? Just like super super like
that's, I don't know how you would describe it.
It's super like trash can vocals,
punky.
Like punky trash can vocals. I love it. Party hard music.
It's gunk. It's German. But like they've been, I think this is their sixth album release. So I mean they've got, I haven't listened to some of their earlier stuff, but I was pleasantly surprised with this one. So I'm gonna have to go check out some of their earlier stuff.
They're like a bunch of pirates too. Like on stage they have these like big flags and shit, and they were playing, I can't remember what festival, but the crowd was just going crazy. And like, yeah, they would be another really fun like festival party band. You'd just be like fucking going so hard with the boys, you know, or the girls.
Get them over to Canada.
Yeah. All right, now we're going death metal now. This month was insanity for death metal. And we might as well.
Got a lot here.
We got a lot to go through here. So to start things off, we've got a band from Denmark called Phrenelith, and with their album Ashen Womb. So this album came out February 7th. They're from Copenhagen. They play blackened and atmospheric, very dense slab of death metal. Think Immolation when it comes to like the thick atmosphere and like the super bottom, like, yeah, the really bottomy thick mix. Very dark and apocalyptic themes, but slowed down and simplistic in its pacing with the guitars, but like really meaty, chunky riffs and a lot of like doom influence in here. I was like, do I put this under the doom umbrella? But no, it's definitely death metal for sure.
I would agree. Like it's just it's the atmosphere more so than the style of playing.
Yeah,
which it's like the same differentiator if you're going from technical to progressive.
Yeah,
technical is just the style, progressive is the everything else is the songwriting.
Yeah,
so it's just like a carnivorous sound to it too, as if it was recorded in a cave.
Yeah,
which it kind of gives off that ulcerate feel too. Which I think was a nice touch, but it still had that power to it, as if you're like fighting a Scandinavian battle in the cave.
Yeah, in the volcano.
In the what is a Phrenelith?
I don't know
what that is.
Yeah.
Someone put down below, what is a Phrenelith?
Yeah, I want to name my next cat Phrenelith.
Phrenelith Boschman.
I'm Phrenelith the Third.
But yeah, solid release. Ferocious, controlled, doomy. Everything you like about that, you got it with Sir Phrenelith.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we got another death metal hardcore fusion band with Open Kasket with the release Trials of Failure. So first time release from these guys. Again, like we said before, with the new wave of hardcore death metal style, you know, Year of the Knife, Cruelty, Gates to Hell, they're very, very similar to that. Just fucking hard.
Yeah.
Their writing is very similar to Kublai Khan. Take out the vocals of Kublai Khan, just listen to their tone. Very similar to that. Their rhythm, I would say, is equivalent to Body Snatcher. That's another good
Yeah.
equivalent. I wouldn't. There's nothing really crazy with their musicianship. They're not reinventing the wheel, but it's just hard, flat out hard.
Yeah. Yeah, like if you like Gates to Hell, 200 Stab Wounds, Dying Remains, Cruelty, you know, Year of the Knife, like, you know, it's death metal with a metallic hardcore kind of influence. There's a heavy influence there. It's definitely death metal, but for the hardcore kids. And it's a good pump up album. It's one, you know, this band, you know, you're gonna die in the pit. Like, don't even try it. You're gonna die. So
there will be no survivors.
yeah. So, but yeah, really heavy listen. It's a good listen.
I agree.
All right, next we're going melodic prog tech death with a lot of controversy, and that's the new Obscura album, a Sonication. And this album came out on February 7th. These boys are from Germany, tech death legends. You know, this album had a lot of really cool atmosphere, a lot of wild solos. They're not really reinventing the wheel. This is kind of like if you like Fallujah, mix it with Devin Townsend in terms of like the prog and more progressive side. The controversy here kind of overshrouded the release leading up to the drop of this album. And, you know, a lot of people, they're just like, whatever, you know, band's still great. And a lot of people are just like, nah, can't fuck with this band anymore. Apparently the story is, I don't know what's 100%, but apparently they were really rushed to record it and to release it. And so there was one of the members, or I think a couple of the members are in a band called Exist. And they had a bunch of music that was originally written for Exist. And I'm not sure if they wrote it while they were still in Obscura. But anyways, it was stolen. And an entire half of a song that was written for Exist by previous members was stolen by the lead guitarist in Obscura, and it was like their single that they dropped, you know. And the guy after they dropped it, he was like, "What the fuck? Like, this is not your song. Like, I wrote this for my other band.
It's my song."
Yeah. So a lot of controversy there, and you know, they addressed it, but they didn't really address it, so it was just kind of gross. And when stuff like that happens, like, it's hard to kind of take it seriously. But I tried listening to it and, you know, for what it was, and tried to like put all that controversy aside. I thought it was good, but it, you know, I just feel like, unfortunately, not unfortunately, fortunately, there are a lot of better tech death releases this year for me, you know, and like, it's kind of a mature, like a more mature sound that I'm not really that into. So wasn't really for me, my thing. But I get why people like them, and I think we're seeing them at Metal Fest.
Yeah, they're
So
coming to Winnipeg
yeah,
first or second weekend of May.
yeah.
So it's
So
going to be fairly interesting.
yeah, I'll try to, I always try to, try to be, what is it called? Objective and like listen to it for what it is for the music, but we'll
Give
see.
people the benefit of the doubt.
Exactly. Yeah.
The one thing I noticed from this album was it was a lot more melodic than what their previous releases were. Which I
Yeah.
think is probably what threw people off for a loop, because their other albums were extremely technical, extremely unique. Songwriting in their previous stuff was great, and I think that it seemed a little bit more generic this time around. Which, again, going back to Architects, if this is their first album and this is all that you're going off of, then you're like, okay, it's just like a mid-range
Debut
mellow death album. But the fact that they have the history of what they can do, that just overshadows everything, and I think that just puts more diminish on the album itself, which is just it's the way that it is.
Well put.
Okay, well, it's our first Italian album of the month, and with Continuum of Xul or Xul with Voratore. So I'd say this is more of the Disso Death theme. The one thing that stood out to me right away is we like another underground band called New Mahasian. And this sound is if you know what New Mahasian sounds like, it's like this a sludgy it's hard to describe. It's just like thick sound. They add that to this album, because you notice they have the pinch harmonics, and the pinch harmonics for this album is very similar to New Mahasian, where it's like a high pitched pinch harmonic, but it's got like this substance around it. It's super hard to describe. You have to listen to it to get it. But again, the one thing that's great about this record, I think, is they still maintain the death metal theme, or the theme. Riffs are really grindy. The vocals are fantastic, but they don't overpower the power of the instruments, which I think
the mix is really good.
That's the star of the show, in my opinion. It's more of an accompaniment rather than singling your vocals out. And just songwriting was great. And
when I listened to it, I was like, yep, Morbid Angel, yep, Decapitated, big influence.
Decapitated is another good one.
Like super crazy, like lots of stank face riffs, but then also a lot of like distorted hooks and lightning fast tremolo picking, but like very tight and precise playing, like very like you can tell they're all fucking experts. They know how to play this shit. Like they're pros for sure.
And do you know if they were in anything else? Because this is only their first release of this band.
I know one of the guys he's in this band called Defacement, which is very much like a dissonant death doom band with like a lot of black metal influence, similar to Choir. Really disgustingly heavy. But I don't know which member is like from that band is in this band. But yeah, really cool release from these guys, and it wasn't on Spotify. Somebody had posted it on the Facebook group and Technical Death Metal Facebook group, and people kept like, sharing it and stuff. And I was waiting for it to find it on Spotify, but I found it on Bandcamp, and there's been a couple of releases so far this year that they just haven't, for whatever reason, uploaded to Spotify. So I'm not sure why that is, but
maybe I'll get there. Maybe we'll get there someday.
Yeah.
Well, just like Choir, just waited a couple weeks or a few weeks or something.
Yeah. All right. So next up, we've got some progressive tech death with a lot of gentiness and some fucking nasty ass polyrhythms. And that's a band called Pathogenic with their album Crowned in Corpses. And so this album came out February 7th. These guys are from Boston,
Massachusetts.
Get in the car with the dogs.
Smart
Yeah. Fucking Bill Burr.
I love that guy.
But yeah, these guys think like Cognitive meets After the Burial meets Fear Factory meets Thy Art is Murder meets Fit for an Autopsy. You've got like that really crisp modern sound and production, but like, yeah, really great songwriting, fucking just ass beaters from front to back. And you got these like galloping, rhythms, like super chunky guitars. Yeah, I think the whole theme of the album, it just makes me want to ride into battle and just like fuck shit up.
Which makes sense. Like you get crowned with your corpses, because when you kill everybody in battle, and that's your trophy.
Yeah.
Load them up in the cart, take them.
Yeah.
Go get.
But like really technical too. Like guitar work is just like insane. Solos are insane. Yeah, really great playing and a really fun listen. Just like I didn't really know what to expect because I didn't know anything about this band, and people were shouting it out, and I was like, okay, I'll give it a rip. And I was like, holy shit, this is fucking really good.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and then like they also, I think the one thing that stands out too is there's a lot of harmonic solos. Which they add that range and that dynamic that I think band like Thy Art doesn't really have those themes, so it just adds another level of their dimension to their sound. And then obviously you got some more black metal influence with like the tremolo picking, and then kind of the riffing between the second guitar and the drums. It's mixed really well because you can hear the two levels of guitars and then the drums and then the different everything. And it's really well produced.
Really clean modern production, almost like Putney fucking produced it.
He probably did. He just doesn't want to take credit. He's using an alias or something.
Yeah.
Okay, moving along here. We're exploring a country that we haven't talked about yet. Hungarian tech death grindcore band Sin of God with their release Bloodbound. they've been around since '04, so they know what's up. But this is their first release since 2016. I would say that they have a super unique sound in the in the tech death space, because they're
Mhm.
borderline playing so fast it's almost grindcore at some
Yeah.
points. But yet it's still maintaining like a groove to it, which is super impressive. And it helps you stay engaged, because each song is unique. There's something else that will throw you off, and you need to listen to it a few times, because each time you listen to it, it's different. Something
Yeah.
else will catch you, or it'll pass by. And it's one of those that you could listen to it 2, 3, 4 times, and it's going to be a new experience each time.
Yeah.
um and I think it helps them really stand out in the tech death community, which could be oversaturated.
Yeah. Yeah. I got, when I listened to it, I was like, it has the intensity, the death grind intensity of Aborted. But
Oh, for
then,
sure.
it has kind of that blackened influence like Bloodbath, and a lot of the technical, especially in the bass work, like the grooves, it's like Cryptopsy. And I'm like, because that bass guitar, it's so forward in the mix, it like shines through, and it almost acts as like a second rhythm guitar, but it's just so like jangly and like, yeah. And then you've got the intensity of the drums, just like nonstop blast beats. It's really good. Again, I was like, I didn't know anything about the band, and I'm like, looks like maybe a subpar, on the surface, like subpar black metal album. But then I was like, ooh, this is fucking really good.
She's got some spice to it.
Yeah.
You made it when Metal Trenches recommends it, and he put this one at the top of his favorite listens for the month
Yeah.
too. So
Yeah,
for
that's
good
sick.
reason.
Yeah. All right. Next we got a deadly one. Next up we've got Scour with Gold. And this album was released February 21st. It's a super group from the US with members of Cattle Decap, like Cattle Decapitation, Misery Index, Pig Destroyer, Agoraphobic Nosebleed, and then you've got the cowboy from hell himself, Phil Anselmo from Pantera and Down on the vocals. And this is probably my favorite Phil Anselmo vocal performance of all time. And I've heard like earlier Scour releases, but like this album, for some reason, he just like fucking goes for it. Like, I didn't know that he had a range like that. But this is black metal with a lot of punk and grindcore influence. And it's because of that like grindcore influence, it has a lot of just like straight up like fuck you energy, just like kick the door down, intense, pissed off, like grindy punk, with the black metal style vocals and like the crazy fast tremolo picking, really like fast drumming, and a great gateway band for people that aren't necessarily into black metal or this style of metal to maybe dip their toes in. Because I think a lot of people that love Pantera or they love Phil's other stuff, like are probably like, you know, they follow him on Instagram and he's all Scour on Instagram, you know, and they're probably like, you know, what the fuck is this shit? You know, this is heavy. And then they kind of get into it, and then you find yourself going down the rabbit hole. But that's why I think it's really cool. Like, this is a great gateway band for people to get into like the heavier black metal shit.
And like even the grindcore aspect, like you hear similarities to Cattle throughout the album. Obviously without not the squeals and everything that that Travis has, but it's so extremely powerful. It's hard to turn away, because I know that we've talked about it. You get some of the purists who are like, the first half of the album is kind of it's somewhat basic, whatever. It's your run of the mill black metal. You're gonna get it at every corner of the black metal store, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the second half is like blow your socks off. But I think that first half can be dismissed just because, like you mentioned, how influential it is.
Yeah.
Because you know that if people are going to get into the genre, you need stuff that's more palatable or closely related to other projects. And this is just about as good as you can make it, like with like straddling that line. And to do that, as I think is a feat of art.
All right, we've got some more Swedes here. You can listen to this fucking crazy tech death while you're building your IKEA furniture and
get it done.
Get it done very quickly. We've got Retromorphosis with their album Psalmus Mortis. And this was released on February 21st. So this is all original members of the absolutely iconic tech death band called Spawn of Possession.
All but one.
All but the drummer, who is none other than Casey Howard from Decrepit Birth, which is absolutely insane. But the diehard Spawn of Possession fans, so there's like these crazy Reddit groups out there, like Spawn of Possession Reddit groups that have been hearing rumblings that they've been writing music again, and they will refuse to call this by their new name, Retromorphosis. They call it Spawn of Possession Retromorphosis. And I think Retromorphosis was actually the name of either a song that was supposed to be written for an old Spawn of Possession or an album. But they chose to just like change the name, I guess, change the name of the band from Spawn of Possession. But it's basically Spawn of Possession, just with it's not as fast as Spawn of Possession, but it's still blisteringly fast. Riff wise, it's like scalpel sharp, precise. Scarpel sharpel.
That's even sharper than scalpels.
Yeah. Riffs are fucking sharp. Solos are just like disgusting, skull crushing. But it blends the new modern wave of technical death metal and that old school tech death sound really nicely. And there's some like really fun synth elements that are sprinkled throughout as well that I really enjoy.
It adds some flair.
Yeah.
And makes it a little bit more digestible too. There's just, it's weird to see that there's some bands who started off being so aggressive now becoming more quote mainstream or more digestible. I think it's just because more people are getting into the genre,
Yeah.
and it's just you'll work its way back. And
Yeah.
again, with us, you'll end up finding out that, oh man, people will fall in love with Retromorphosis and then not
Yeah.
realize that, oh, there's Spawn of Possession, there's this whole 3 other albums that they released that's even faster than this. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah, like people could listen to Retromorphosis for the first time and be like, "Oh, there's more Retromorphosis," and then like, and you could have old OG Spawn of Possession tech death fans that are like, "Oh, there's new Spawn of Possession," so it's like, yeah, I'm
You're
I'm
appealing
glad
to
that
both crowds.
exactly, yeah, the new and the old. So, but yeah, it's a fucking ripper of an album. I think that just based on the Spawn of Possession stuff and their lore and their legacy, I think this will be on year-end list top 10 for sure, for many people in that tech death scene. So a lot of the freaks out there.
The freaks and the purists.
Yeah.
But continuing on, we got another full-length first release from a band called Marrowomb with their band Phisenomie.
Phisenomie.
This was like another single man project, but god damn, is there a lot going on with this album. Like, there's a lot of grindy elements. There's a lot of, like, I would almost call it chaotic mathcore. There's even some synth and piano parts that get added in there as well. There's times where I think there's maybe almost too much going on. Like, you got to be really fucked to understand what everything's going on, which I think is only prominent from a one-man band when you're recording that much and you're layering everything. If you were to get everybody together in the same room to do all that, I don't think that would be as sustainable or as easy to do. But the drums are so thunderous. And then the vocals have got like these low pitched squeals or shrills or something, and it like puts chills down your spine. It's like you're walking through a haunted house when you listen to this.
I think he tapped there's a drummer, Kevin Paradise.
Yes.
I think he's doing the drums on this album.
He did do that.
Yeah. Sick.
He's been in like every band under the sun.
Yeah.
He's just hopping around.
Yeah. I liked how it was mixed and produced. Like, musically, I thought that it had like a real thick bottom end. And I just loved how the production matched that. It has like a lot of the synth work. It creates that bleak atmosphere and stuff like that. But it's not overproduced. It's not stale sounding. It still sounds like raw. But yeah, there's a lot. I do agree. There's a lot going on with it. It's definitely, you got your black and death metal. There's almost like black and roll, so like black metal and rock and roll vibes going on. Lots of dissonance, but like there's a lot of punchy bass and that I really enjoy. So yeah, I thought it was a solid listen, especially for like a debut from a one-man project. It's pretty cool.
It's just, you could tell that there's there's a lot of thought put into it. There's
Yeah.
definitely some unique themes which would make sense for a one-man project, but
Mhm.
you gotta take it. You need to approach it with what you know that it's going to be. Like you gotta set that
Yeah.
expectation from the
Yeah,
start.
for sure. All right, so this one for me is going to be, I've listened to it again today, and for me, I think this is going to be on my year-end list.
You think so?
Yeah. It is so outstanding for me. And it's a band from the UK. They're called Vacuous, and this album's called In His Blood. And it was released at the end of February 28th. And it's just like very interesting. It's very experimental, but it's done through the foundation of, pure old school death metal. But there are so many like different influences scattered throughout this album. You've got punk, hardcore, black metal, doom, atmospheric. They're really like taking that old school death metal sound and getting really like creative and boundary pushing with it. And so for that, there's something here for everyone. And I think it's very palatable and approachable for people who generally don't listen to death metal. Like kind of like the more art scene, but then also the old school death metal guys, because the songwriting is phenomenal. The riffs are fucking nasty. But the way they blend all of these influences together, that's where the magic lies for me. It offers something that's very unique in a space that can feel like that old school death metal space that can feel really overcrowded with a lot of copycat bands. And don't get me wrong, it's like I love fucking, I love drinking a Busch Light. I love drinking a fucking, but every once in a while, like I want to have like a nice Saison or like an IPA or something like that. And so that's this band for me in terms of death metal. Yeah, I think it's a standout. I just really enjoyed it.
I liked it too. Like I think it's just you have some influence from Incantation, I would say, with that kind of that carnivorous atmosphere seen again.
Lots of like reverb, that cavernous fucking reverb. But
the one thing that I appreciated was that there wasn't a ton of crazy guitar solos, which a lot of modern death metal bands have. They just kind of kept it very similar to like the verses and like tight choruses. There wasn't no fancy solos. They just were like peanut butter and jelly when it came just to the songwriting. Just very, very simple. And I think that's just what sometimes when you're in a more niche genre, sometimes something just needs to be simple. And I think that's the musicianship with this one.
For sure. Sick.
And now we're going to an album that is the complete opposite of simple. It is all over the place here. And again, like you had mentioned before, another one-man project. This is Light Dwellers' 5th full-length album release, The Subjugate. And what I really liked in this album, it's like that. So you still got like the Distal Death black metal style, but there's a lot of dissonant synth parts.
Yeah.
Which isn't super common, but it's a
Mhm.
nice touch. I would say you're getting some Severus vibes when it
Yeah.
comes to when you're adding those parts. Again, basically anytime you talk about Disso Death black style, you're gonna bring up Ulcerate, and Ulcerate, I think, like the tone is very similar how they play.
Yeah. Like
But
how
it's very
angular,
yeah.
like it's very, the guitar work is very angular, and like there's constant tempo shifts going on, which is very much like Ulcerate. But like having that added layer of those little electronic elements. So I think Light Dweller has always been electronic drum programming. And
That would
on his
make sense.
previous album, the electronic drum programming was almost indistinguishable from real drums until you got to kind of the end of the album. And then you realize, oh, this drumming is shifting into like these electronic kind of like synth wave type of beats. And you're like, wait a minute, is this real drumming? And then I had to look it up, and it's like, no, they're all programmed. So he's doing the same thing, but he's just, I think, getting a little bit more experimental with that.
Mm.
And yeah, it spices things up a little bit for that genre. But like personally, I like the Light Dweller is this guy named Cameron Bosch. And Larson and I went to see Archaic and Desiderium at Bulldogs last year, and they played to a crowd of like 20 people. And Desiderium is also a one-man project by one of the guitarists from Archaic, so it made sense that they toured together. But this Cameron Bosch guy from Light Dweller was the guy touring for Desiderium and doing all the vocals.
No way.
So I went up to their merch table after their set, and I was like, man, this was so sick. Like, I can't believe you guys just played that to like 20 people. And they're like, yeah, you know, it's been a little bit like I don't know what's going on with the show promoters, but like it's been kind of whack, you know, like, but I mean, it's good. Like, we still love to play to our like core fans and stuff. But this Cameron guy, he was like, you know, asking me, he's like, what do you listen to? So I was listening, for some reason that day, I was listening to Bandcamp when I normally only listen to Spotify, unless there's something that like, you know, isn't on Spotify. But on the way to the venue for that show, I was listening to Light Dweller.
Whoa.
And so, and I still had the app open. Like, I could just swipe my phone open, and it'd show like Light Dweller's previous album on Bandcamp. So this Cameron guy, I didn't know that he was Light Dweller. So he was like, we were chatting about music, and he was like, so, you know, what kind of shit do you listen to? And I was like, oh man, I'm listening to this sick one-man project called Light Dweller. And he was like, oh, what? He's like, that's me. I'm like, no, it's not. And he's like, show me, prove it to me. So I literally opened my phone, and the first my phone was Light Dweller. And he was like, dude, that's me. And I'm like, what? And then he told me that he was touring with Desiderium and Archaic to do the vocals for Desiderium. And that made me like, I was like, oh my God, man, this is so crazy.
So that now you just like have that memory, and now you're diving full head first in because you have that you have that experience.
Yeah, but it's just it's such a wild moment, you know. So it kind of, and he was such a nice guy, so it just like made me appreciate his project so much more. So
it's weird how that works out. That's
fucking
amazing.
cool. Yeah, that's dope. Okay, next up we've got another absolute fucking crusher, ass beater. This is a brutal tech death band from Norway, land of the Vikings, and it's a band called Celestial Scourge, and the album's called Observers of the Inevitable. So this album also came out at the end of February, and wow, holy man. Again, I think this is probably going to be up there on a lot of the top lists at the end of the year. Insane.
Insane debut.
Insane.
Like if you really like Origin, I think it's a little bit more, it's not as brutal as Origin, but the technicality is still there. Lightning fast riffs. It's the pace is super, super fast. They kind of have this like how would I say it? Not atmospheric, but like intergalactical synth overlay to everything too, which somehow works. It's like so refreshing, and you would, for something as technical as that, you think, how could you make it any more different? And somehow they've done it.
It's very much like in your face, no bullshit. Like even with the synthy parts, it like you said, it's in the background, and it helps to create this like this aesthetic of the album, which is very thematic. But musically, it's like crushingly heavy. I listen to it, I'm like, man, this is like a more slammy Suffocation, more in your face, unrelenting, groovy, just dirty riffs, but in your face with the intensity similar to Dying Fetus. But then there's these like crazy polyrhythmic sections, and they have these face melting solos, and you're just like, what? Like, how the fuck did they play that? And then it's just, it's definitely a standalone tech death album. There's nothing boring. There's nothing unoriginal. It's super captivating. It's really fun to listen to with that with that theme of like the extraterrestrial type of vibe going on. But yeah, it's really fucking cool. Like, did not expect that.
That was the first one that would be at our playlist. You started that one off.
Yeah.
And like the first part of that first song, I can't remember the name, but it's got like the synth galactic intro. I'm like, holy fuck, if this is the way that we're starting off our listening record, it's like this is gonna be tough to beat.
Oh yeah.
It was such a fantastic start. And I've listened to that album, I think, at least twice.
Yeah.
It should
Like
be
I would
better.
put it up there as like a standalone tech death band, similar to like Cattle Decap or like a Cognitive or something like that, where those bands like they can stand on their own. Like this band, for being a debut, like they're gonna be so big, I think, like they're gonna be a band that's hopefully around for a long time, like a Suffocation or whatever, Cattle Decap. But yeah, super sick release. Excited to hear more of their shit.
Same for a first album. Bring it
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
Okay, next we got some Polish boys here with the band Toughness with the release Black Respite of Oblivion. And these guys are young. I did some research on them. They're like I think their oldest member is like 26. Their drummer is, I think, 17 years old. Absolute, he's a fucking wizard. And
Yeah.
I'm looking at their Spotify playlist, and there's like this young kid. I'm like, who in the heck is he? Turns out he's the drummer.
Wow.
And like these guys are kind of similar to Defeated Sanity in the sense where they have that really crazy technical polyrhythmic ability, but somehow they've got like these weird grooves and hooks for the death metal. That's just like, it throws you off. You don't know where you're going.
Yeah.
It's super catchy. Again, it doesn't get stale. It's very, very low gutturals. Very like
Cookie
it's
Monsters.
pretty much like you almost can't hear what they're saying, but it's yeah, I was almost blown away by it. It was so good.
I know. I was like, okay, this can't be good. I looked at the cover art and I'm like, there's no way this is going to be good.
It looks like like a bunch of like
looks
ghouls.
like a kid
It's
drew it.
weird.
Yeah. But in my notes I put, it's super DIY sounding.
Yes.
It's super dirty and grimy and scrunky. And it's like if it's like if Sanguisugabog and Artificial Brain had a retarded stepchild.
Yes.
That's
the only way you can describe it.
It's very technical and it's very like groovy, but you don't know where it's going. So it's like kind of all over the place. But the way it's recorded is very do it yourself, like kind of like, really dirty, almost like that Relics of Humanity or the Sanguisugabog recordings. But yeah, they're crazy musicians. I'm a sucker for the machine gun blasting with like the crazy like and how poppy and noodly that bass guitar sounds, and then how pingy and snappy that snare is on the drums.
Which probably just because they couldn't have any proper recording stuff.
Yeah, but it's like the tightest snare.
They're just kids.
It feels like when you're listening to it, you're like, that snare is going to break because it's so tight and like pingy sounding.
Pong,
but
pong, pong.
Yeah, it's really good. Very experimental, but like crazy old school brutal death metal sound, but like really experimental, kind of funky vibes, avant-garde vibes. But
I forget the one riff, but it was like do 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 do.
Yeah.
It's like you're in a jazz band.
Yeah.
But then the other parts were like he's hitting pinch harmonics on like every note.
And I
weird.
Yeah, I learned that they were from Poland too, and I just listened to an interview with Vogue, Decapitated, and Chris Garza, and I'm pretty sure he's from Poland too.
Yes,
And yeah, and after I listened to this Toughness band, I was like, these guys are probably look up to Decapitated like they're gods, and and it's cool to see young whippersnappers. Like when Vogue was writing music, he was like fucking 13 or 14 years old, and so like there's just some absolutely phenomenal and crazy bands coming out of Poland, and yeah, it's really cool to see that. Freaking
and
Polski
young bands too. It's good to see
Yeah.
that people are still trying to be actual musicians and play.
Yeah, the Polski Gorskis are back.
Bring over some good food while you're at it.
Yeah. All right, next up we got some Blackened Death Doom. We've got a band called Metaphobic with their album Deranged Excruciations. And this album also came out at the end of February. These guys are from Atlanta, Georgia. And this is also a debut album, but when I listened to it, it sounded like it came from a veteran band. It was like very well done. It's Blackened Death Doom with a lot of dissonance that's kind of sprinkled throughout that creates this like very bleak, dark atmosphere. Deep guttural vocals, shredding guitars, blistering blast beats, and it all together creates like an atmosphere that's very bleak, like feels like you're getting sucked into a black hole, but it's still that good old classic stomp and death metal.
So and much production on this one too. Like it's very prominent.
I really enjoyed it.
Vocals are, I'd say, were almost a standout out of anything. But then you have there's aspects in it where you got some super fast guitar solos, but then there's some parts where it's more of a dissonant background. And it's somehow that counteraction it pairs so well, and it just basically works for whatever mood that you're in. Sometimes you want to fuck shit up. It works for that. If you're also just like chilling out on the couch, the dissonant part speaks to you and you're just hanging out, and it works. So it's pretty diverse.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now we finally get to experience a Canadian band. Surprisingly, have not mentioned a Canadian band yet. This one's a tech death band from BC, and it's a Crown of Madness with the release Memories Fragmented. This is their first full length after 2 EPs. I would call these guys the Canadian Ulcerates. They're a bit their sound is a bit brighter than what theirs is. But the sound difference is almost indistinguishable. It's so close. It straddles that line. Super insane blast beats, super technical. It was, I didn't even know these guys were in the scene, because usually we like to try and find Canadian bands, and I had no idea that they had had a release. So I think this one was a nice surprise.
Yeah, and they're on Transcending Obscurity as well, which is crazy. But it's a husband-wife duo, and so the wife does the vocals and all of the instrumentation, and the husband, I think he is the drummer.
That could be it.
Yeah, so yeah, really crazy, like ulcerate style disso death, lots of twisted grooves, lots of like blast beats, but very refrained. You know, it's not just like pounding drums, it's like blasting, but more in the black metal type of realm. It has a lot of like janky and discordant arpeggiated chords and riffs, just like, you know, most disso death. But just like insanely talented musicians for being 2 people. And you know, I thought it was like a really beautiful album. It was very restrained. There was some brighter parts. Yeah, and for like a for a Canadian band, I was like, fuck yeah, go Canada. You know, this is awesome. I heard of these guys. There was like some sort of split project that came out with Entity here from Winnipeg and Crown of Madness. And there was somebody else on there too. I can't remember, but that's where I heard of these guys from. And then I saw that they had their debut coming out on Transcending Obscurity, which is, I'm obsessed with that label. And I'm like, no way. Like, this is so cool. I know this is going to slap. Like, it's going to be awesome. And it was. So
did Crown of Madness come to Winnipeg?
Did they come to Winnipeg?
Yeah. Or
no,
they was on a tour with Entity?
No, they just did like a split, kind of like an EP. I think they recorded like 1 or 2 songs, and then Entity did the same thing. And then there was another band that did the same thing, and it was all on one EP. So it's like but I can't remember what it's called. If you go on their Spotify or on Entity Spotify, you'll find it. And yeah, their old shit's really good, or their older shit's really good. But
because they haven't been around for that long either.
Yeah. Okay, so next up we've got some break out the clubs. We're going caveman. Yeah. Dragging
your knuckles.
Find your nearest cavernous tomb. We're going in. This is a band called Active Impalement, which is a fucking badass name. And this album's called Profane Altar. And this one was also released at the end of February 28th. These boys are from Nashville, Tennessee. And They play a very grimy, nasty, cavernous, death doom, old school death metal, like autopsy, incantation, super thick guitars, stomping tribal like drumming, and lots of reverb on the vocals. So you want to get fucking mauled in the cave, this is what you're dying to for sure.
This is the last album you hear before.
Yeah, the shame cave, as they say.
I don't want to visit the shame cave. Yeah, like it's super crusty and groovy. And then the other part that I really liked was there's a lot of syncopation of like the pounding between the drums and the guitars. It works super well and kind of created like again like that hollow cavernous atmosphere.
Yes.
And another band that I think that would be kind of close to this would be Morbid Angel. I think parts of them would be right up, if you like them too, right up your alley.
Yeah, for sure.
It's just like eek. There's probably bats flying around you every time you listen to that.
Yeah.
Take your rabies shot, you'll be fine.
Yeah.
Okay. I think this is our last one-man project of the month.
Okay.
But another kind of blackened death metal project, Venomous Echoes, with his release Dismore. So again, we must be in the rankings of the most black metals album, because this is flat out freaking scary. I feel like I've been like being sucked into a black metal vortex when I listen to this one. I think it has to do, there's like syncopated guitar notes where it's descending, and a lot of times where it's like and then you have like the weird black metal atmosphere, and then it feels like you're circling and like going down. It's super unique. Super dark.
The black wood.
Like the guitar and the drums are moving at just light speed. They're moving super fast. And I think it's flat out punishing. I don't know what else to say. It's scary.
So this guy, there is a theme with this album, and it's, I guess, a very personal album. Thematically, it revolves around his own struggles with having body dysmorphia.
Oh yes, I did read about that.
And
cry for help.
Yes, and you feel the pain throughout the album, but if you don't go into it knowing that, it's still very insane, just like very talented musicianship. I find, like, as a drummer, he's extremely stylistic with his drumming. Like, he does a lot of really crazy blast beats and like kind of like fills that you normally wouldn't find in this type of black metal. I love the other instrumentation, like the saxophone parts, and
yes,
he does like the crazy like tortured vocals or like the whisper kind of vocals.
A little bit like Full of Hell.
Yes. Yeah. But yeah, if you like bands like Alterage and Portal and Impetuous Ritual, and it's very chaotic, very overwhelming, and extremely terrifying. It's not an easy listen for sure. It's not an easy listen, but it's really fun. I enjoy it. So
it gets easier the more that you listen to it, for sure.
Yeah. Sick. Okay, now we're going back to Finland. And with a sick black and death metal release from a band called Sepulchral Curse with their album Crimson Moon Evocations. This one also came out on February 28th. This is a black and death metal release with sheer heaviness, brutality, ominous atmosphere, infectious melodies, and like super monstrous vocals. It's a big chunky chunker of an album that pulverizes you with nasty, filthy riffs, low and intimidating vocals, and this massive wall of sound that is created by like the guitars and some of the atmosphere that they bring with the album.
I think it's very similar to like Fit for an Autopsy.
Yeah,
but
I found it
have like chunkier guitars.
Yeah, it's like a very modern production on like a black and death metal release. So like I found it like really great and kind of like refreshing. It's also like a front to back, really engaging, fun listen. So this one might also be on some chart toppers at the end of the year.
Like, I don't know how in the hell we're gonna figure out a top 10 because we already probably have four or five.
February, and we already have this many standout releases. It's pretty wild.
If the rest of the year is gonna be like this, it's gonna be fucking bananas, man.
Yeah,
Banana City.
I
think there's some longer songs on this album too, which makes it seem more like a journey. And I kind of like that, where it's just you're taken through the hums and the ups and the downs and everything, which you don't really get that so much with black and death metal, where you're talking you're into the 9-10 minute long range with that kind of mythical fantasy themes.
Yeah.
So that's what it helps that stand out for sure.
Sick.
Okay, last one in the metal genre here, or the death metal genre. Man, ending it off with some Canadian death metal artists here with Grave Infestation with the release Carnage Gathers. So I would probably say that this is the closest thing to old school death metal, while keeping, you got some doom, you got some carnivorous themes there, but the tempo is still very, very fast. So I would
Mhm.
probably say the closest thing to that would be early Incantation. I
Yeah.
think would be yeah, the closest thing you're gonna get to it, but super, super unique. Um, I enjoyed listening to it. I've been getting more into like that doom metal realm, but it
Mhm.
having that underlay of doom makes it more, but keeping the speed, sorry, of doom metal albums make it more enjoyable, because usually with doom it's just like, oh, you're taking it
Droning.
like so droning out, or like how do you stay engaged? But I think they do
Yeah.
a good job of making sure that no one really gets bored.
Yeah. This was a big standout for me. The vocals I found fucking absolutely savage.
Hmm.
And I find it like very brooding, old school death metal, where it's just like sick and nasty and like, yeah, it's like straight from the cave again. It's a lot of cave vibes. This death metal, in this death metal February umbrella,
It
but
must be because of
um,
winter. Everyone's pissed off with winter, and they're like, just want
yeah,
to record. Everyone's just in hibernation. That's why it's
yeah,
all carnivorous.
yeah. But I got a lot of like Slime Lord,
Mm.
Sedimentium, Autopsy, and even like the previous Active Impalement vibes from this band. And yeah, again, go Canada, let's go.
Come on,
I love to
start
see these
releasing some
guys.
more good more.
Yeah, I love to see these guys do like a cross Canada tour with like Dying Remains or somebody like that.
Hmm.
Be cool.
Come to Winnipeg.
Yeah, come to Winnipeg. We will mosh.
Yes, we will be in the front row.
We will mosh it hard. Um, so now we're going into our last two bands, which are under the Progent Fall Groove umbrella.
Yes, the
Progent Fall
bounce,
Groove,
the bouncy boys.
the Bouncy Castle.
Oh, I guess the girls too with our first
Yeah,
band.
yeah. So we're getting groovy here. We're going to Ukraine with Ginger and their album Duel.
Drinking all the sewage of the damage that go round. And the land of the brain, the one eye is a king. It brings in the empty parts, ugly rotten sex. Ugly rotten sex in the empty parts. Collecting blood is his ambition. He sets alight the value of our lives. It's just make a bold decision. Activates his dreadful light. The breath tastes like rock.
Which was released on February 7th. These guys are nasty fucking groove technical. What can I say? It's
Aging
like,
like fine wine.
oh yeah, absolutely. Musically, it is so insanely technical. A more progressive Meshuggah. And the drumming is the bass, like every instrument is just an absolute like masterclass. It's like god tier, like insane playing. And then you've got Tatiana, who is amazing, and she does these like beautiful clean vocals, with the vibrato and like all that. And then you've got like punishing gutturals and like these mid-range hardcore type vocals that are just like ear-piercingly heavy. And you're like, how can all of that come out of that? It's
Oh, this
just
is the same
savage, man.
person.
Yeah. and how she can go from that like singing, like beautiful singing voice to the nastiest fucking screams ever. And I watched I'm sure you've seen it, but it's that they do like a live performance in the studio. I think it's Audio Tree, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, where it's
And
just the vocals.
yeah,
It's
well,
like it's
she's like,
stripped away.
she's like, they're playing like a live set, but they're playing it in the studio together, all in one room. And she's like in the middle, the mic stand, and she plays those parts live to perfection, you know. And I don't know how you do that, like how you go from like singing like that to screaming like that, and back and forth and back and forth, and the highs and the lows, and the, like it's a lot of talent for sure.
And anybody would be happy to have like one or the other. If you could
Yeah,
scream like her or if you could sing like her, you'd be like, hell yeah, I'm an amazing
yeah,
singer. The fact that she has both is just mental.
yeah. But yeah, there's got some real like ass beater songs on here with like Meshuggah like grooves and like crazy fast with like lots of pace changes going on, and yeah, just super technical. And then they have some more like slower pace songs, and just a really great front to back album in general.
And the bass, I know the one thing that stood out to me was the bass.
Yeah.
It cuts through like a knife, man.
Yeah.
So I think like I said before, every album is just it's getting better. They're learning from their mistakes. They're kind of falling into that groove metal gent genre, but still keeping the intensity. Which
I got a lot of, for the intensity and just the style of playing on this dual album, I got a lot of early Protest the Hero vibes. So if you've never listened to Kazaya, like I got a lot of vibes there. Like in terms of just the sheer groove but the intensity and like the speed, especially the drumming. The drumming is just such a standout for me. Just so crazy. Like, yeah. Wild.
Good for Ginger.
Yeah.
We love gingers. Gingers of all kind.
Yeah. Gingers have no soul. Just kidding.
Except for Tatiana. She is the only one that has soul.
Yeah.
Tatiana, if you're watching this, we would love to have you on
the podcast.
Yes, we will talk about your talent.
Yeah. Let's go.
Okay. Last one from prog metal legends, Dream Theater, with their 16th full-length album release, Parasomnia.
With guilt abandoning comrades lying still, suicide stare back at me, broken, sick I feel. What are the dreams of all to come? Toxic and bleak, I'm getting worse. Dead inside, gonna try, I know I am a broken man.
And these guys are also from Baston.
They're from Baston. They don't sound like they have accents when they sing, but they probably all do. Mike Portnoy's back on the drum set after his long tenure away from the band. The one thing that I personally haven't listened to a bunch of Dream Theater, like I haven't listened to all their discography.
Neither have I.
I think that, well, just because again with us and listening to everything, there were some people who were really hyping up this one, saying it was some of their best. So then naturally you're like, okay, let's just see what they what they can do. But I think for at least for me, I don't know if you can speak to this, but once you start listening to some of the heavier stuff for a long time, it's just the proggy thing doesn't really do it for you as much.
Mhm.
I think you can respect the musicianship that goes into it and the technical ability. And like obviously these guys have all gone to, oh frick, I forget the school name, but they've all been to like a music school in New York,
Yeah, they're
and
all classically trained
they're all
musicians.
classically trained. They know what to do. Um, Everything from the synths to Pachucci on the guitar,
Mhm.
they it's not dull. It just doesn't give off the same emotions that
Yeah.
you would normally have. I just think if you are wanting to appeal to the masses and you're wanting to throw on like a cool album that's like a little bit different than most bands, then this is the direction that you would go, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these guys have been around for 40 years, and um, they obviously bring a lot of old school rock and roll, blues, with like that 80s, 90s hair metal vocal style.
Mm-hmm.
This is like your dad's favorite prog band. It's a very approachable band in a sense where you can go with the family to a dream theater show and it would be like a wonderful performance. Bring grandma,
Minds will
bring
be blown.
yeah. You're not going to have a wall of death at a dream theater show, or you're not going to have like hardcore dancing. It's a performance. It's a stadium band. It's like going to the circus. um and I don't mean any disrespect to that, but it's like, you go to the MTS Center to go to a Dream Theater show just like you would go to see Tool live or something like that.
Mhm.
You're there for the experience. There's probably Disney like fucking visuals and shit going on in the background. But this album, it gave me like, back in the day when I was a kid, my I would watch Disney movies over and over and over again. And my parents had a subscription to this like CD. I can't remember what it's called, but it was like a CD online CD store. So they'd send you a catalog of CDs, and then you would like mail in or go online in the early internet days and then order the CDs, and then they would send you the CDs in the mail. But it was like a subscription service.
Oh.
And my mom used to buy me tapes of soundtracks from like The Lion King and like Toy Story and like shit like that. And this album gave me like Disney soundtrack vibes, like a Disney movie soundtrack vibes, because you're going on this journey, and it's definitely from like the ticking clock in the beginning of the album. There's all these like movie like scenes that are set throughout the album. There's like some spoken word stuff, and it's obviously about a dude who's like trapped in his nightmare.
Mhm.
And thematically it gave me Disney vibes. So obviously we're not going to listen to it, and we're not going to listen to it the same way we would listen to everything else that we're currently listening to, but like you can still respect the musicianship.
For sure.
um,
Side note, Tarzan, Phil Collins soundtrack are arguably the
hard.
best, the hard
Yeah.
as shit.
Yeah.
You heard it here first. That's my
Yeah.
favorite Disney soundtrack that there is. Second, Monsters Inc.
Yes, absolutely.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's the tier. We're gonna do Disney album tier list next video.
Yeah, Disney Pixar album tier list. Yeah. Yeah.
Third place, Ratatouille.
Yeah.
But the one thing I will say about this one is the fact that the runtime is like an hour and 10 minutes. The last song is 20 fucking minutes long.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it doesn't feel long, which is
Mhm.
amazing to do. So
Yeah.
you gotta tip their hat to them, because to be able to keep people engaged for that long and not feel like you're drowning in oblivion is amazing.
Yeah. Well, I hope everybody out there doesn't drown in oblivion. Thank you for watching or listening to this entire podcast. There was a lot of fucking releases in February, and this is surely not everything that came out, but it's everything that we listened to. If there are things that we missed, let us know.
Please let us know.
We'll probably create like a oopsie daisy, we missed it episode. Maybe at the quarter mark, we'll do something like that. But because I'm sure there's going to be shit we've missed from January and February and in March and everything else. So, but yeah, we appreciate you. Thanks for listening. Hit that like, share, subscribe.
Tell one friend. That's all we need. Tell one friend, please.
Tell a friend. If you have a friend, tell the friend. And
if you don't have a friend, get one.
Yeah.
And tell them.
Then message us. We can help you find a friend.
And a house. Not in that order.
Yeah. All right. Peace in the Middle East, everybody.
Stay metal.
Stay metal.
Real heavy!